Hey folks, DIY Dan here. Today we're going to give an update on the Saturn. Last time you guys saw, the Saturn was having a problem that I couldn't figure out. Feels like a while ago, because it was. That problem turned out to be the head gasket. I had told y'all that that might be what it is, and that's what it turned out to be. So that's beyond my knowledge, because you have to take apart so much stuff just to get to it. I can take anything apart. It's the putting back together. So I finally got it back probably 2 weeks ago. Today is the December 15th, 2023. So let me show you what was done. So I had bought parts. I bought this originally to do the fan, which is here because it wasn't working, and I had also gotten the thermostat, which I don't know if you can see it, but it's right here. It's at the end of this hose here, the housing, and then the water pump, which is actually mounted behind this pulley right here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that pulley is actually attached to the outside of the water pump. So after the issue happened, and if you watched my last video, you'll remember seeing those pictures, I got a friend of mine who's a mechanic to do it. It wasn't cheap, but luckily the head wasn't cracked. So on top of all that, as you can see, it's new. He put this stuff back in for me. Also replaced this top engine motor mount because it was gone. You can see the new blue gaskets or grommets on there. That's for the valve cover gasket, got replaced. You gotta remove the exhaust manifold, so that's got a new gasket. This connection right here between the exhaust manifold and the actual exhaust has a new gasket. And then if you all come around here, you're probably not going to be able to see it, but here's the fuel injectors, and those of course goes into the, below that's the intake manifold. That all had to come out, which of course required gasket replacement. This car ran great. You notice how I use the past tense? Well, let me explain why I'm using the past tense. Because apparently my daughter, whose car it is, decided to drive to work one day, and in that drive she calls me and says the car just died on her. And I was like, well, that's kind of strange. I don't understand why. Well, I had to have it towed, so I towed it back here, as you can see. And I always try to remember to do the testing, test for air, fuel, and spark. So I tried to do that and thought it was the fuel, because I wasn't getting fuel pressure. The way I was testing it wasn't working, didn't seem to be having fuel issues. I drew the conclusion it's the fuel pump. So bought a fuel pump. I said, since I'm going to be there anyway, going to replace the fuel filter. And then the only issue is that the fuel pump is in the fuel tank, and that means you have to drop the fuel tank. That's a pain in the butt. But then I connected my diagnostic tool to the OBD2 port, and it had a active and stored code for a crankshaft position sensor. It was a P0336 and a P0335. So I asked my brother, who was a mechanic, if having a bad crankshaft position sensor will keep your car from starting, and he said it can. So I said, well, I'll just pick one of those up. It was like $15. That's the great thing about this car, is the parts are super cheap. So I did that. I got that. I got the fuel pump in the mail and got the fuel filter. I said, let me do the easy thing first, so let me replace the crankshaft position sensor. And for those of you who don't know where it is, let me see if I can get this for you. It's dark. I don't have a light. I don't have my phone with me, but it is down there. it's above the starter. So a lot of people say you need to get underneath the car and then get to it from there, but I did it from the top. I tried to do it easy, so I did that today. Still doesn't start. So I said, let me check for spark. No spark. I'm going to interject here as a voiceover. The actual problem was the crankshaft position sensor. When your crankshaft position sensor goes bad, it can stop the spark. I did end up replacing the spark plug wires and the coils and all that, which ended up not being necessary. I got a new, the crankshaft position sensor, the bolt got loose, which kept it from starting. And then I ended up having to replace the connector as well, so that the connector was not making a connection to the crankshaft position sensor. Once I replaced both those things, the crankshaft position sensor worked well. The only other problem was it ended up being the fuel pump 2 was starting to go, and you'll see that in my next video. Now back to the video. The continuing saga of the Saturn continues. So I'll keep you posted, let you know how that goes. If I can even get to film it, I'll film it. See, it's pretty straightforward. So thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, I appreciate you. We'll see you next time on the DIY Dan channel.